Hello?
Jim.
Yes.
Hey, Dave Lawrence, Hawaii Public Radio.
Hey, how are you, Dave?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. How about yourself?
I'm good.
Well, thank you very much for being available, and we really appreciate you being willing to speak with Hawaii Public Radio. You've got quite a history in the islands. Goes back a long, long time. For yourself, when you think of Hawaii, there are so many different roads that lead to it. What comes to mind?
Well, I think the images that are still pretty fresh in my mind is when I was, just before I shot the cover for Full Sail, I think we had just performed in a concert in Hawaii, and I went over to Maui to spend some time just to relax, and that's when I first was introduced to Lahaina and Longis, which was an Italian restaurant. I don't know if it's still there now or not, but I just fell in love with the vibe of the whole town, and it was before it became commercialized. It was probably on the verge, maybe in the next couple of years, because I know when I came back in '79, it had totally changed. But the people were soft and kind, and there were merchants that were selling, different kinds of art pieces along the road there, where the jetty went out to the harbor, and the little church that said Jesus is coming. I mean, and the green grass and everything around that, the smell, the temperature. For me, I really experienced it as paradise. And having grown up in a city and in the country of a much different environment, it really had an impression on me, a very positive impression, as a matter of fact.
Right from the beginning, you were really successful here in the islands and made a huge connection. One of the artists that, when speaking to certain artists, the Hawaii thing is a bit more relevant than others, and you'd be in that category. I mean, your first show here, I'm privileged. I have this Steve, the mystery emailer. He sends me all the historic stuff. And November 24th, '72, Hawaii debut, sold out crowd, Andrews Amphitheater, Manoa Campus, UH. So right from the beginning, you had that sold-out thing, and then you came back. Loggins and Messina returned to Hawaii 6 months later. Another sold-out show, this time the Blaisdell Arena. And that was right about when you were telling that story. That was about the same period that you did the shot, the album cover. And then you flash forward to November 23rd and 24th, and it's two sold-out shows at the Blaisdell. One of the highlights of that, according to Steve, was when you performed a mandolin solo during the song Be Free from the new album at the time, Motherlode.
That's right. That's right.
And you didn't mention it yourself, but I'm going to guess you've had a great life. God bless you for it. But the November 29th and 30th, you guys are doing two sold-out shows at the Blaisdell. Leo Kotke is opening, and Paul and Linda show up.
That's right. I remember that night. I remember that night specifically because it was a shock to look back there and see this face that I had recognized on so many album covers, and he was such a kind and gentle person. No pretenses or the typical rock and roll ass was not present in what you would expect from people. He was just so kind and wonderful. And his wife, Linda, actually made a connection with my wife, and over the years she would send a calendar each year to us that had all of their friends and people's birthdays on it, and my former wife Jenny kind of took that as a template, and she started something very similar in our lives that created a calendar, and it was really because of our connection there with Paul and Linda that happened. It was a wonderful, very positive experience.
That the only time you crossed paths with Sir Paul?
That's the only time I crossed paths with him until his wife had died, and I was in Santa Barbara, and I remember a mutual friend was doing a vigil in Santa Barbara and asked me to come and play just acoustically a song and support the whole memorial, which I did. And then, I met George in London, just casually walking through. I think Kenny and I were doing a convention over there, a CBS convention, and one of the nights George had come there, and I got a chance to meet him. Got a chance to meet Ringo under funny circumstances, but I did get a chance to meet him.
What was
Never
that?
met John.
What was the Ringo?
Pardon me?
What was the Ringo circumstance?
Oh, Jim Webb, the singer-songwriter, and I went to high school together, and he was about a year older than I and came to Hollywood before I did, and managed to have a wonderfully successful career, especially with the Glenn Campbell songs. But I guess he was Ringo's neighbor, and one evening, it was New Year's Eve, and my former wife and I had been someplace and ran into Jim, and it was getting kind of late. He says, I want you to come over to my house. Have you ever met Ringo? And I said, no, I never have. And he says, well, our kids play together, and our wives and everybody know each other, and he's having a party, and if you want to go, I'll take you. So he had a limousine, and we said, sure, why not? We jumped in the limousine, and we're all smiling, thinking, God is good, God is good.
Right.
And we get there, and we go in, and there's somebody standing at the driveway, and they said, I'm sorry, but you can't come in here unless you have a pass. And Jim says, roll down the window, and he rolls down the window, and he says, hey, it's Jim Webb. He said, I'm a friend of his, and the guy says, well, he's got a lot of friends, but unless you got a pass, you're not coming in. So he says, well, that's crazy. He says, you get him over here. So I guess they call Ringo over, and Ringo comes over and goes, hey, Jim, how you doing? He says, great. He says, Happy New Year. He says, Happy New Year. He says, I've got Jimmy Messina and his wife here, and he'd never met you before, and I thought maybe we could come visit you at your party. He looks over at me, he says, hey, it's nice to meet you. And he goes, you can't get in unless you have a pass. And Jim almost died from being so red in the face. And so I thought, well, that was an interesting friendship. He was so embarrassed by it, but, it was okay. We went on from there, and oddly enough, Roger Miller called, and Jimmy told him this story. He said, oh, come over to our house. So we went over to Roger Miller's house, and they were all dressed in tuxedos. And they apparently had just played someplace. And, I'd never seen Roger Miller's band. I knew Roger because when I was a young guy, around the time I was mixing, I had met David Crosby and mixed Joni Mitchell's first demo. I was working at a studio that had all the rockabilly singers that would come in, the James Burtons and the Joe Osbornes and the Keith Allison and Jerry Allison, Dorsey Burnett, and Roger Miller, of all people. So I had met him earlier, but I had never really been around his band or his live performances, cut demos and stuff. And so anyway, I'm sitting in their house. It's just past midnight, New Year's Eve, and everybody's dressed very formally. They got tuxedos on, and we're all sitting on the couches, and Roger's living room was very elegant. And so he says, hey, Jimmy, would you come back here? And I was wondering if you'd do me a favor. So he takes me in the back and into a room that's off the side of the kitchen. He says, you know what? He says, I've just had too much to drink, and I can't tune this instrument, and I want to play a song. So I said, okay. So I tune it up for him. He goes, hey, man, thanks a lot. So we go back in, and I sit down back on the couch, and he stands up in front of the fireplace. The fireplace is going, it's, on the mantle. He stands up, about 6 inches off the ground, and he starts singing this song. And I'm listening to the song, and all of a sudden, to my left, I hear these three background voices come in. And I look over there, and the three gals that had come in that were sitting on another couch started to sing. And then all of a sudden, the guy gets up, and he walks over to a grand piano that's sitting there and starts to play. And the magic that was happening in that room, the voices and Roger's song, and it was just the most incredible experience I'd ever had in an informal situation with people that are as gifted and talented as that. So having missed Ringo's party, I think, was serendipitous when all is said and done.
Those are great moments when things like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
On so many levels.
Exactly.
What a huge story, though. On the man, that was a real education to hear on both of those. But the Ringo one, dude, that's rock and roll, man.
Yeah, it is rock. That's rock and roll for you. Fast friends, fast relationships, and fast exits.
Man.
But that was such a wonderful evening with Roger, because it just really gave me some wonderful ideas for future productions where you get something on such an informal way that can just and I think some of the workshops I do, the songwriters workshops that I do, have a similar feeling to that, because we keep everything very, very simple, and you surprise the audience with vocal parts and talent that you weren't expecting to come forward.
It all seems to me it's interesting when you have a cat who was as young as you were, 16 or whatever, with his gestures, and doing that record as a really, really young person, and you see all these years later the stories, the things you've gotten to do, and your perception of it all. It's like what a trip you've had with music. I mean, and getting to, is that because of your dad, I guess, that you started playing guitar at 5?
Yeah, my dad was actually, if he had have lived longer, was a much better guitar player than I was. He could do that Merle, Travis picking, and he just had such a great feel and control over the instrument. And I think because of that, it inspired me to want to play like him. And so it was always in my spirit to want to learn how to do that. And I think for me, at a young age, and I look at my kids now, because I have a 9-year-old and a 23-year-old, it's so important, for them to have that inspiration. And it's something they have to acquire for themselves. It's not something you can give them. Whatever it was that sparked, turned the switch on inside of me from 5 years old to want to have a career at music, it really started then. And I look at my daughter now, who's 9, and she's in her bedroom producing trailers for movies and getting her friends recorded on video, and her animals, her cats and her donkeys, and she asked for a special effects screen, for Christmas, a green backdrop. And I thought, what the hell is she doing in there? And I said, all right, that's too expensive, So my wife finds something for $30. She buys it and hangs it in there on the bunk beds, and Josie's got her cameras setting up, and she's making these movies with special effects. And I'm thinking, that's what she did in the last 2 weeks. And we had no idea. She's in her room with her computer and on her iPad and iPhone with her little girlfriend, who's about 45 miles from here. And they're trading stills and doing videos and sending them back and forth. And she's compiling and editing, a trailer with some. She got an application that allows you to be able to, kind of fill in the blanks like an iMovie kind of thing, but it's an app that strictly does trailers, for instance. And it's just amazing. And she has it. She has that spirit. She has that inspiration. And I truly believe that's going to motivate her in life and hopefully lead her along the good path to do good things. And, I'm crossing my legs and arms and eyes to keep her out of trouble,
Well, they're in a world that you and I are, I can't even begin to comprehend precisely when you think about what you just said. It's a real description. But the other side of that, there's another thing that you said, which is this passing forward from father to you, and then from you to both your daughter, and also I'm interpreting here, and I could be wrong, forgive me if I am, but your son Julian, drums since 4, now a recording engineer. You already have your own recording prowess, working with people like The Doors and stuff, and other folks you mentioned before even getting your own musical side. I got to look at your son and think, that's a real strong connection, a different language sort of that you speak.
Well, he definitely is. I mean, I had him. He's been very quiet about what he knows and what he learns, and he asked me a couple of weeks ago if I could put him down as a reference, and I said, well, of course, but I said, you and I have never really worked together. I said, what would I put down? And there's this silence, and I said, whatever you do, you should always be honest. And if you put my name down on something, you better expect somebody's going to call me. And when they do call me and they do ask me a specific question, I can only give them the right answer to that.
Mm.
He says, "Oh well, if you don't want," I said, "No." You don't want to damage your reputation. I said, "Julian, that's not it." I said, "What it is that I don't want to damage your reputation." So about a week later, he came here and we worked in the studio. We did some things and he helped me out, and I was just absolutely blown away about how much he really knows. So now I can say, yeah, he can operate Pro Tools, and he can operate mastering programs, and he understands how things are patched and why they're patched and why you put a preamp first and a lineup second, and where you insert a compressor or an equalizer. He knows it. So, but I didn't know that. But I hope that whole process, if anything, it lets him know that whatever you tell people that you can do, you need to be able to back it up, and especially if you tell somebody that somebody else knows that you can do something, then you want them to be able to call in and check and make sure and that is in fact the case. So I think he got an important lesson out of that. I think the problem is that he knows so much, and he thinks that I know that, just because I'm his dad. But anyway, it's raising kids is I thought would be over by the time he was 18. Figured you educate him and keep him out of jail, and you've done your job. But it just starts there. It just starts.
You're lucky to have that relationship. You really are, because so many families, it's not. It gets so things happen, and
of course,
legal things. It's unbelievable. I can't believe how far I've come. I used to be so tight with my dad. Now we don't even talk, and all this crap that's going on because of things that occur. And you have a lot to be grateful for. That you. I love that story too. I mean, you're real. That background, I can hear it. How much it has helped you. It's kept your mind really, really clear. As we go to wrap it up, because I keep you on the phone all day, I got a million stories with you. It's a shame you're not doing Honolulu. That's really a drag. You're not even flying through, huh?
No, the promoter. I don't know this promoter. I've never worked with them before, but we take offers based on what.
Yeah, it's cool, brother. It's cool. It just sucks that we're not going to get you here, because I'd love to put you in the studio, talk about the slack key, the flamenco, the painting, the carpentry, all this stuff.
That would be wonderful. Well, you know what? Like you pointed out, we played many years ago. I played Hawaii, and 6 months later, I was back doing something again. So who knows? Maybe this will be a nice little spark. You know what? It sounds like you were really invested in music, and if you'd like, I was going to send something to Chris Leonard. Do you know who Chris Leonard is?
Name sounds familiar, but forgive me for not having it handy.
He's let's see, what is that radio station? Let me look it up here real quick. He's at B97 KWXX on the Big Island.
Okay.
His dad was the first one to promote us at those shows that you were talking about in Hawaii. John Leonard was his name.
Okay.
And he did the Blaisdell stuff. And John passed away a few years back, and his son, before he passed away, his son and he bought some radio stations that had gone bankrupt. And together they started working on this and started building the business up. And then John passed away, and now his son Chris, I think it's been 23 years, is now involved in the station and was there in the early days when we were first starting. So he's a big music lover and a big music fan. I was going to send him, I just finished an album here called An Evening with Jim Messina, front and center with special guest Rusty Young. And I brought Rusty in to kind of give some credibility to the music that he and I both worked on and with and produced, that I produced, like Kind Woman, Child's Claim to Fame, You Better Think Twice, and then some of the L&M stuff, which he didn't play on, but I had written about that time when I was leaving Poco. So I brought him on stage and put him on some of the L&M country stuff, like Listen to a Country Song and Holiday Hotel, and the stuff just came out terrific. And it was a wonderful evening. And I was going to send some snippets to Chris, and if you'd like, I can send you a couple little promo packets that you're welcome to listen to.
I'd love that. Anything, Jim. That'd be kind, brother. I'd really...
And, you're welcome to play it. Just don't, if you don't mind, just don't send it by email to anybody. You can play it for your friends. Stuff has not been legally copyrighted at this point in terms of the masters. So,
and it's not for use on the radio for promoting your clip. It's just to listen to.
No, you can listen to it on the radio because the songs are all copyrighted.
Okay.
But
so we can use it in your piece. I could use it if I wanted.
You can use it in your show. You can use it in that kind of thing. But don't take the actual audio files and email them to anybody. You're welcome to play them for somebody. But
sure. No, I appreciate it, man.
That would be great if you can do that. But I'll send that to you, and you'll get a sense of most of these songs that I'm playing. I think all of them I'll be performing when I'm there in the islands, and actually, with the exception of the drummer, the same band. So it's pretty current stuff, and excellent. Well, I'll send these out to you, and enjoy them. Hi, this is Jim Messina. I'm here with my friend Dave Lawrence, and we are at Hawaii Public Radio. Enjoy.
You're the man. Thank you. It works. Send that, and we'll, if we can ever get you into we have a nice 75-seat little performance studio attached to the radio station. It's done all kinds of Booker T. We just had a thing in there, Taj Mahal. It's a good room to do stuff with. You can't make a bunch of money, but you can do something. If you're in Honolulu, you could string a couple nights together, make enough to make it pay off, whatever. You can do it. You could do it solo. You could do it as a benefit. You want to help homeless? We got a raging crisis here. You want to do a benefit for the radio station? We're nonprofit, whatever. I mean, there's a way to do it.
Way it works best for me, if we can get there on a paid gig, what I can do then is maybe come by and we could bring the guys in and augment what we're doing there with something like that.
Okay.
As long as it doesn't interfere with the person's actual concert that they're doing,
right?
Then I think we're good to go. As long as it's a private affair, and maybe the idea would be to record it and use it at a later time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
However we can do it, but because of the expense to get there, it would be best if we can get a local promoter to bring me back, and maybe we do the Oahu and maybe one of the other islands or something. Or again, if it's 6 to 8 months from the time we play, usually it's not a problem to put the people back in the seats. But no, I'd love to help out in however I can if we're there and can fit it in and budget it in so that we can pay for it. I'm good.
Yeah, just putting it in your head. You never know what can happen. All right,
betcha.
buddy. Well, I give you a hug, a high five. I hope everything's good. Hope you had fun talking. It was great talking to you, man. I really do appreciate it.
All right, and I'll get this stuff over to you. I'm going to send this stuff out to the other guys. I'll just put you on the CC list, and you'll get the same material.
Thank you, brother.
All right, bye-bye.
Take care.